With lots of gift-giving opportunities just around the corner, it's great to be able to make a gift that can be enjoyed by either a man or a woman. Tile coasters are just that gift, and wait till you see how quick and easy they are to make. The tools and supplies you'll need are StazOn ink. Now you want to make sure you use StazOn ink because you don't want the tiles to bleed if water gets on them, and StazOn ink is completely water resistant. You're also going to need some rubber stamps. You're going to need some sponge daubers, and these I'm using are from Suconico. You're going to need some tumbled tiles, and I'm going to tell you about the tiles in a minute. And you're going to need a sanding block, and I'm using the Tim Holtz sanding block. Okay, as far as the tumbled tiles go, I bought mine at Home Depot. Now, at Home Depot, they sell them in boxes of like 7 to 9 tiles. I actually go through the boxes and make sure that none of them are broken, none of them are cracked, and then I pick the ones that don't have quite so many holes. As you can see on this tile, this is full of holes. Yet, in the same box was this tile that's very, very smooth. It still has some holes, and that's okay because that gives it that quaint look that you're looking for. But if it has too many holes, you won't really get to see your image so well. So kind of go through the box when you're picking them and pick as many that are as smooth as possible. Okay, so let me make a little room here. Now to begin, you're going to use some black StazOn ink, and I'm going to just stamp this phrase. I'm using our butterfly set, and the phrase on the butterfly set, the one that I'm going to use is, if nothing ever changed, there would be no butterflies. And I'm going to make these tiles and give them as a gift to my daughter's teacher. And it's always hard at the end of the year when the year is over and she knows that the kids are leaving. Well, if nothing ever changed, there'd be no butterflies. So I think that's a great saying. Okay, so I'm gently going to just stamp the words randomly across the tile. And you can see part of the words you can't really see very well, other parts of the words you can see very well. It's okay, it's supposed to look like that. I'm just going to put a little bit there. And I'm going to kind of fill in just on the edges. Like that. Okay. Now, I'm going to give that just a minute to dry, and it dries pretty quickly because StazOn's a dye ink and it dries quickly. Then I'm going to sand over the surface using my Tim Holtz sanding block. The reason why I'm going to do that is I want these words to be there, but I also want them to be very soft in the background because I'm going to stamp another image on top. So I'm going to go ahead and sand. See how it's kind of fading out now? You can sand as little or as much as you want. Okay, let me just get rid of the dust here. And then I'm just going to run a paper towel over the surface of that to remove any excess dust. And that just softened it up a little bit. All right, next I'm going to replace my stamp with the butterfly on my block. And I'm going to ink it up with black StazOn again. You want to make sure that your StazOn ink pad is juicy because you do need quite a bit of ink on your image to really make a good impression on this tile because the tile is porous. Okay, so I've got my butterfly inked up real well, and now I'm going to go ahead and stamp it. And you can see I'm putting lots of extra pressure on it because I want to make sure that the ink really gets onto that tile. Where normally on paper you just stamp it and press, you really want to press on this. And as you can see now, I have my butterfly image. And you can see how much more vibrant the black StazOn of the butterfly image is compared to the words that I sanded, and it gave them a more gray tone. So now you're going to give that just a couple minutes to dry. While that's drying, I'm just going to show you what you're going to put on the back. On the back of your tile, you don't want this tile to scratch up anybody's wood. So the best thing to do is, also at Home Depot, I found these little cushioned feet. And they come in a big pack. Just peel them off. They're sticky on the back, and stick them to the four corners of the coaster, and then it won't damage the furniture at all. But I'm not going to put any on this one just yet because I want to show you how water fast this is. Okay, so next I'm going to grab a couple of sponge daubers out of here. Take 2. And then I'm going to use some pumpkin StazOn and some mustard StazOn. Let's start with the mustard. All right, I'm going to put a little bit of mustard ink on the end of my sponge dauber. I can pat a little bit off. And then just very lightly, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow onto my butterfly. Now you don't want to smear and rub because you're using StazOn ink on StazOn ink. And since they're both solvent inks, if you start to rub, you will start to smear the black. Now one of the questions that I get a lot with this is, can you use Copic markers? Well, you could use Copic markers because the markers won't bleed because they would be waterproof. However, you can't use Copic markers with StazOn ink. So I really would recommend just sticking with the StazOn ink, especially if you want to make sure that they're not going to bleed and they're not going to smear. Okay. So now I've added some of the mustard, and now I'm going to add some of the pumpkin. Right into the center. And just kind of blend them together. And now you can see I have a beautiful butterfly coaster. Once I put the feet on the bottom, that's ready for gift giving. There's no heat setting, nothing. It's just ready to go. Now, some of the questions I do get, I'm often asked, how do these tiles hold up when wet? And do they smear or do they fade? Well, the answer is easy. These tiles will hold up as good as new, even when completely immersed in water. Now, I know a lot of people don't believe me when I say that because on so many of the chat forums, they've been told that they either have to heat set the tile, they have to bake them in the oven, or they have to spray them with some sort of fixative. But just so you can see it for yourself, I'm going to put this tile that I just made to the test. Let me grab a bowl of water. All right, I just got a bowl of water, and now I have the tumbled tile that I just created, and we're going to see if it holds up in water. So here we go. I'm going to immerse it right in water. I'm going to rub all over the surface. And you can see nothing has smeared. You just pat it dry here. And look at that. Good as new.